everyone, welcome back to Plum Mashable. So I found this glow-in-the-dark embossing powder at Spotlight, so I wanted to try it to make a bit of a birthday card. So if you want to see what I made, and if it works, then just keep watching. Alright, so when I was at Spotlight the other day, I found this. Now I'd said I think it was a favourites or another video that, oh no, it was in my Shaker Dome one, that Spotlight had some new embossing powders. From what I'm understanding, they're actually not stocking them anymore because these were on clearance. So this is actually a glow-in-the-dark powder, and I wanted to give it a try. I have no idea if this is going to work, but we'll give it a go. So I've cut myself a little panel here. This is going to fit on the front of my card. This is cut to 14 centimeters wide by 10.1 centimeters high. And we're going to start off. Actually, we're going to do one more thing first. So I've also got another one that's exactly the same. It's actually just a tinsy bit bigger, but same sort of gist of it. And I'm going to use this to cut a little hillside. So what we're going to do is we're going to have the little mouse with his telescope. This is Lucky Star, Superstar from Fawn. He's going to be looking up at the sky, and there's going to be all the stars in the background. That's what's going to be the glow-in-the-dark element. So that's sort of where I'm heading here, but I need somewhere for him to sit to begin with. So I'm just grabbing a little bit of washi tape to hold this still. Oh, you didn't need that much washi tape, anyway. So we'll cut the hillside first. Just run that through the die cut machine. And then I can work out where all of the stars need to be stamped before we go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to ink blend over the top, so we use some Distress Resist for today. I don't think I've shown you guys Distress Resist on my channel, but we're about to give it a shot. Alright, so there's our little hillside. So that'll sit there, and the mouse will sit on top. I'll get the words right eventually. So then we can put all the stars all over the background. So we'll do this first, and then we can just ink over the top. So I've got my Versamark ink, and I've got all of my stars. I also grabbed Wish Upon a Star, or just Upon a Star, sorry. That's got some constellations and stuff in it as well. I figured I could use both. And I've just got my stamp block. I know I want to put the big star somewhere. So this is what I like to do. I'll line them all up sort of where I want to put them, and I've also got to work out where I want to put my sentiment. I want to put the little mouse and his telescope over here. Mouse and his telescope. And I want the sentiment to say Happy Birthday Superstar, so I can get that as well. So the super and the star come out of Superstar, and then Happy Birthday comes out of Offset Sayings Birthdays. But they're the same solid sort of text, so they all look good together. These don't have to be perfect at this point, they just sort of have to be around the right spot, especially because that says Star Super, which is not right. And then I can sort of start putting my stars around the place where I want them to go. So I'll just line them up on here first, decide where I like them, and then we can move them if we want to. So I've got them all roughly where I want them. I'm just going to take away the hillside and the little mouse because he doesn't need to be there now. And then I'm going to, actually, I wasn't going to use the Misty, but I think I will. So I'm just going to move that over a little bit. Just make room for the panel to go in. Again, I'm not worried right now if it falls a little because we'll get it all in the right spot and stamp it all at once. So I like where all my stars are sitting, and then I'll go through in a minute and add in any single ones that it kind of needs because there's probably a bit of gap around the place. So I'm just going to pick up all of the constellations, just move them so they're a bit even. The main problem with stamps, when you start sticking your finger in them, they move around. So I'm just picking these up so that they don't wiggle around too much. I'm also going to put my bar magnet at the bottom because that's where I know the hill's going anyway. So it'll hold that nice and still. And we can get this happy birthday in the right spot. So once I'm happy, I don't have the creative corners for my Misty. I do want to get them, I just haven't got to them yet. Make sure you clean your stamp blocks. Boy, thankfully I could just turn that over and it's okay. So we'll just do that again. Put the happy birthday on there. Because we've already got them in the right spot on here and we haven't inked yet, I don't have to worry about accidentally putting them in the wrong spot. So I'm just using my straight stamp block here to kind of make that as straight as I can. And then we'll do the same thing with the Superstar. So just using the edge to put it in the right spot. And then we'll pick all of that up. And before we ink it, I'm going to go over the whole thing with some powder, and this will stop the embossing powder from sitting anywhere we don't want it to sit. I'm being really liberal with this. Doesn't hurt to have too much at this point. And then we'll ink up the whole thing. This is just using Versamark ink. Any kind of sticking embossing ink will be fine. Say, and then just check before you stick it down, but apparently my Misty wanted to shut down earlier than I wanted to. Just giving that a good old rub. Make sure I've got everything. The only downside is it's very hard to see at this point, but if we leave everything where it is in the Misty, if we do need to come back and restamp anything, you can, because everything's in the same spot. I am just going to use just a couple of these little solid single stars. I'm just going to use my other stamp block just so I can see exactly where everything is. So it's just going to be a couple of solid stars on their own and a couple of the single stars, the single open stars on their own. You can always add more later, so if you don't sort of feel comfortable at this point adding some more in, just leave it. You can come back. So I'm going to leave all those ones still in the Misty, because that way if we need to come back and stamp some more or do another stamp off, we can. I'm grabbing my little bit of paper here, and then we're going to go crazy with this embossing powder. Put it all over the cardstock, all over where we put the embossing ink. Okay, it's going to look green, which will be weird. Yeah, cool stuff. If I can see anywhere where it maybe hasn't got the best coverage, I'll just put a little bit extra. I think I did pretty well there. I have just got a little spot here that's in the wrong spot, so I'm just using a paintbrush just to dust it away. I'm going to put all of this back in, try anyway, and I'm going to go ahead and heat set this just with my heat tool, and then we'll come back and do the ink blending. Thick on the birthday bit, but it is all melted, so I'm just going to go with it. Where'd my cloth go? I'm just going to give this a bit of a wipe off. Alright, so then we're going to do the ink blending. So I've got 3 colours of Distress Oxide here, and I'm just sticking this to my glass mat so it doesn't wobble around quite so much. So we're going to do a dark sky. So I've got Black Soot, Chip Sapphire and Faded Jeans. Could do a 3 blue blend here. 3 blue blend, there you go. But I'm just going to do a 2, just 2, because it doesn't need to be too complicated. So I'm going to do Faded Jeans up to sort of about here, and then Chip Sapphire right at the top. So actually I don't need to use my light one, just my dark one. So we're going to go straight over the top of all of the ink. It'll look weird, but you'll wipe it off afterwards and you won't notice, so it'll be fine. I'm just going to go ahead and blend this. Because this is a night sky and is a little bit, you know, not perfect, it doesn't need to be the perfect blend. You can obviously blend for as long as you like. If you just want to give it a light blend, you can. If you want to go a bit harder, go for it. That's what I was talking about. It didn't look quite clean on the top. So when I wipe this off, you can see it's coming, the ink's coming off the off the embossing powder. It's not coming off quite as nicely on the Happy Birthday. It's still okay, but it just doesn't look quite the way I wanted it to, but that's alright. We're learning with this stuff. Not going all the way to the bottom because that's where my grassy hillside will go anyway, so you don't need to go all the way to the bottom. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit of water to this, just so it's got a little bit of extra detail in the background. Could also, if you wanted to, add in some watercolor, like gold watercolor paint or silver watercolor paint to kind of make more stars. I think I'm going to leave it this time just so that the glow in the dark part is really the star of it. Star. But you could add more without too much of a problem. Okay, so I'm going to pull that up, give this a clean, and then I'm just going to hit it with the heat tool again, just to dry the water, and then we'll rub off all of the excess oxide. Because I can, I'm going to have another shot with just the Happy Birthday. I think the Superstar's okay. I can live with that. So I'm just taking off the stars and the Superstar sentiment. I'm just putting them off to the side for now, and I'll clean it up later. I'll put that down. Put a bunch more powder on here. I'm actually just going to use the powder that was on the brush. The Happy's almost okay, but I'll do the whole thing so that it doesn't look lopsided. I'm putting way too much ink on that, but that's alright. Before I stick it down or stamp it, I'm just checking that it lines up, which it does. Now I could have maybe not pressed hard enough. Maybe that's why it didn't quite work, but this will definitely fix it. Just pull that out and re-emboss that, and I'll be right back. Worked, and I don't know why, but I feel like if I keep playing with it, I'm going to make it worse. So we're learning from our experimentations. So now I'm going to go back, or go on to doing the hill. So I'm just grabbing Forest Moss and Rustic Wilderness. Rustic Wilderness is a brand new one. I'm just going to use mostly that one because I do want it to be like a really dark green, because obviously we're at night, so we want it to be reasonably dark. But then we'll just put a little bit of Forest Moss on the top and around the sides just to kind of make it a little darker. And Forest Moss is a bit more olive, but I think it'll still work. Don't really have anything too much darker than Rustic Wilderness. Maybe I'll put just a little bit of black on here in a sec. Just going to grab that black one we used before, not putting any more ink on it, just using what's already there. Clean that mat. We're going to hit that with just a little bit of water, and we'll go on to the little mouse, and we're nearly finished. Alright, so I'm just going to go ahead and stick this down to the background. This is just a tinsy bit bigger lengthwise than my card, so I'll just go a little bit either side, just cut off the excess. Just lining that up. I do love the way that green is sort of very green in the middle. It looks really good. Alright, and then for the mouse, I'm just grabbing a little bit of my blended card. My blending card, not blended card. That one was just a bit messy. I always keep little scraps for this exact reason, for these little stamps that you don't need a whole bit of cardboard for, you can just use something else. So I've got my little looking mouse, he's looking up through his telescope. little telescope. So I'm going to do a silver telescope. So for that reason, I'm not going to do a grey mouse. I kind of wanted to, but we'll do a brown mouse. We'll do a brown mouse and a grey telescope. So I think cool greys generally sort of look more metallic, but I want to use, these are 3 of my brand new markers that I got for my birthday. So this is neutral 1, 3 and 5. So I'm going to use them just because I really want to use them. So I'm just going to play with sort of where I put the darkest bits. So put the darkest bits right at the edge of the telescope, and then sort of anywhere I think it would be a bit darker. So on the bottom of the tripod here. Then blend that out with 3 and then come back in with 1 just in the other bits. Not using too much of the 5, you don't really need too much shadow. It is night time after all. But very attractive when it comes to Copics to the neutral colours, so like greys and browns, they sort of tend to be where I go with them. I'm sort of always looking at the really bright colours, but then I go, yeah, but I don't use bright colours, so I don't really need to buy too many of them. That said, I will eventually collect them all because that's what I do. Okay, having a little bit of trouble blending between 3 and 1, so I'm just going to do tip to tip there just to speed this up a little bit. My E30 markers. I think my E30s and my E50, E20s are my favourite. I just love the way these guys come together. So we'll use the 37 as the darkest. Just find where all the shadows are. So sort of behind his ears, a little bit under his neck, a little bit around his bottom, and his feet. Just put a little bit on the top of his head. Blend that out. Oh, whoops. Should have been 39, not 37. Sorry. So everywhere I just put 37, I'm just going to go over that with 39 because that should have been the colour I used there. Whoops. And then we'll come back in with the 37 and blend that out. And then for his little tummy, I'll just use 35 and 34? 33. Just for his tummy and for his ears. A little bit lighter. For his little nose, I'm just going to get E49, which is my darkest, that's what I think is my darkest brown. For his little nose, I'm also just going to give him a little cheek and a little bit of red in his ears, just with R20. Just a little bit of pink over the top of the brown, nothing massive, then one big little cheeky. And then we just need a little bit of white highlight just on his head and on his belly. A little bit on the light bits of the telescope as well. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and cut those out with the matching dies and I'll be right back. Alright, so now I've got my little mouse and his little telescope all cut out. I also did a little speech bubble here that just says make a wish. I just thought that would be a really cute thing to put on the side, so we'll see if it fits. So I'm going to put this up on foam tape just to give them a bit more of a boost. Don't have to, they'd be fine just on their own little bit, but because I can. My foam tape's a little bit wide, so just cut off the excess. So I'm going to go ahead and stick those down. The only thing I think is a little bit, I'm not 100% happy with is just the birthday, because we know that doesn't work. But I'm just, something's missing over here, but I don't know what to put there. Absolutely no idea what to put there. Could get another couple of mice out maybe, because I do have plenty of mice from Lawn Fawn, but kind of at the same time like the sparseness, I don't know if that's a word, but kind of like the way that green sits on its own. I'm just going to stick this on a backing card. So this is just a pre-cut card base that I've got. I'm just going to fold that over. Now this has already got some sticky on the back from where we stuck it down before, so I'm just going to leave that on there, but just add a little bit more. I did deliberately cut this just a little bit smaller than my card base so that I've got a little bit of a skinny white border around the outside. So I think it looks really nice. Kind of gives it a bit of a finish. Just giving that a push. I really like the way that's turned out, except for that birthday. I don't know why it hasn't worked. I love that. I love that. I love the darkness on that green. That's the part that I'm really drawn to. And I like that I added the green for the grass. Like you could have done, I guess, just dirt, or you could have not had, could have just had the, it would have actually been really cool to do that as a puffy cloud border. But I think then the green of the glow in the dark would have looked a bit weird, because now it kind of looks like it should look, because there's a bit, the tones are the same is what I'm trying to say. Now comes the moment of truth, I guess, is to see if this actually glows in the dark. Whoops, my card base tore. That's not good. Good thing is I can just pull this panel off, so I'll just pull that gently up, put it onto another one. I'm not going to throw that away because I can still use that cardstock, but I'll just get myself another card base up. Maybe I pushed too hard when I scored that. Be a bit gentler this time. I'm not even going to put any more glue on. It's fine just the way it is. Alright, so it's been sitting under these lights for a while. So I'm just going to try and turn my lights off and see what happens. And if not, we'll add a little bit more light to it. It's just like normal glow in the dark anything. You just have to sort of put some direct light on it and then it should glow in the dark for a little bit. So hold on, let's turn the lights off and see what happens. Hey Google, turn off the studio lights. Might still be a bit bright in here. Can you shut the blinds for me? Oh, that's not too bad. That's not too bad. I don't know how well you guys can see that. Probably not very well at all. So I'm hoping I'll do some zooms in the dark and put them up, but it's not horrible. It's not great, but it's not horrible. Hey Google, turn on the studio lights. Like I said, I'll put zooms in, so hopefully you can see. I'm not 100% happy with it, and that's what this video was really about, was just to see this more than anything else. I'm not 100% happy with it. It's a bit grainy, like it doesn't feel as finely milled as I guess my Altenew white does. It obviously also hasn't 100% worked, and the glow's not fantastic, but I will do a couple more experiments putting some more direct light on it. And I'll let you know in the description box if I manage to get it to work better, or you'll see zooms, so you'll know. But it was on clearance and I did get it for $6, so perhaps I'm being too picky. I know Lawn Fawn do a glow in the dark. I'm sure Altenew do a glow in the dark. So what I might do is, if I can't get this to work the way I like, I may eventually buy some of that. But for now, I don't use glow in the dark often enough to justify it. But for now, I think that's kind of cool, and it's just, that'd be really cool for my nephews. I think they'd love a glow in the dark card. So I have ideas if I can get this to work. But that is it for this glow in the dark experiment card. I hope you guys did enjoy it. Please give it a big old thumbs up if you did, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Let me know your favourite glow in the dark embossing powder if you've got one. I'd love to hear your suggestions, so you can leave them down below, or of course you can find me on any of my socials. I hope you have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day, and I will catch you again in my next video. Sending lots of huggles!